Have you ever wondered why Batman's car gets more attention than most superheroes themselves? Think about it. Superman has, a phone booth? Spider-Man swings around on webs. But Batman? Batman rolls up in a vehicle that makes grown criminals wet themselves. The Batmobile isn't just transportation, it's a character. It's evolved more dramatically than Batman himself over nearly 60 years of movies and TV. Today we're ranking every live-action Batmobile from worst to best, from 1966 to 2022. And trust me, some of these rankings might surprise you. Before we dive into this automotive journey through Gotham's history, hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps us make more content like this. Number 8. The 1997 Batman and Robin Batmobile. Oh boy, where do we even start with this one? If the 1995 Batmobile was a neon nightmare, this was its even more obnoxious younger brother who just discovered energy drinks. Director Joel Schumacher looked at the previous film's already excessive design and said, you know what? Let's add more. More fins, more lights, more everything. The result? A 30-foot-long monstrosity that looked like a Hot Wheels toy that gained sentience and decided to become a rave. This Batmobile had a single cockpit design, which meant Robin had to ride in a separate vehicle. Because apparently, even the car itself wanted nothing to do with this movie. The entire body was covered in glowing neon strips that pulsed and changed colors. Not subtle neon accents, mind you. We're talking full-body illumination that made the vehicle visible from space. NASA probably classified it as a light pollution hazard. The most ridiculous addition? Rotating triple-finned tail section. Yes, you heard that right, the fins actually rotated. Why? Nobody knows. Did they provide aerodynamic advantages? Nope. Did they serve any tactical purpose? Absolutely not. They just spun. Like a very expensive, very pointless fidget spinner attached to the back of an already ridiculous car. Under all that nonsense was essentially the same chassis as the forever Batmobile, but you'd never know it. They added so much cosmetic junk that the car could barely move. Stunt drivers reported it was nearly impossible to handle. The thing weighed close to 3 tons and had the turning radius of a cruise ship. One stunt driver famously said, "It's not a car, it's a monument to excess." The interior was equally absurd. Red leather everywhere, more buttons than a spaceship, display screens showing who knows what. The whole cockpit looked like someone let a teenager design their dream gaming setup and then made it street legal. Well, Gotham street legal anyway. What really killed this Batmobile wasn't just the over-the-top design, it was that it perfectly embodied everything wrong with Batman and Robin. Style completely overtaking substance, flash without function, a toy commercial masquerading as a superhero vehicle. When your Batmobile has more product placement potential than actual crime-fighting capability, you've lost the plot. The saddest part, underneath all that neon nonsense was decent engineering. The base vehicle had a Chevy 350 engine that could theoretically hit 140 miles per hour. But good luck reaching that speed when you're dragging around 500 pounds of decorative fins and enough LED strips to light up Times Square. This Batmobile appeared in exactly one film, and thank God for that. It remains the perfect symbol of the franchise's late 90s nadir. A glowing, spinning reminder of what happens when toy sales become more important than storytelling. Even George Clooney refuses to talk about it. Number 7. The 1995 Batman Forever Batmobile. Joel Schumacher's first crack at the Batmobile, and boy, did he crack it. After Tim Burton's gothic masterpieces, Warner Brothers wanted something more toyetic. That's Hollywood speak for designed to sell action figures. What we got was basically the automotive equivalent of a glow stick convention. The design philosophy seemed to be, what if the Batmobile was also a nightclub? This thing had more neon than a Las Vegas strip. Blue lights ran along every possible surface. The ribs that gave Burton's Batmobile an organic, almost skeletal appearance, now they glowed like someone shoved fluorescent tubes inside a whale carcass. Subtle, it was not. But the real crime? Those fins. Dear God, those fins. The previous Batmobiles had fins that served the design that felt integrated. This one had fins that looked like someone glued surfboards to the back and called it a day. They weren't even symmetrical. One side had this bizarre split fin design that served no purpose except to make the toy version harder to manufacture. The cockpit abandoned the cozy fighter jet feel of Burton's versions for something that looked like an alien massage chair. Everything was curves and organic shapes, but not in a cool H.R. Giger way. more like someone melted a bunch of plastic and shaped it while drunk. The seats were covered in some weird ribbed material that probably felt great for about 5 minutes before becoming incredibly uncomfortable. Performance-wise, it was actually impressive. Built on a Chevy Impala chassis with a custom body, it could hit speeds over 100 miles per hour. The engine produced around 300 horsepower, which wasn't bad for a car carrying that much decorative nonsense. But here's the thing about performance. It doesn't matter how fast your car goes if it looks like a rejected Power Rangers vehicle. The gadgets were equally over the top. It had a grappling hook system because of course it did. Missile launchers hidden behind panels that opened with all the subtlety of a Broadway curtain. The wheels could rotate 90 degrees for parallel parking, which, okay, that's actually kind of useful in Gotham's narrow alleys, but mostly it was flashover function. Val Kilmer reportedly hated driving it. The visibility was terrible, the handling was mushy, and the whole thing felt like driving a parade float. There's a scene where Batman has to chase Two-Face through Gotham, and you can practically feel Kilmer's embarrassment radiating through the cowl. This wasn't a predator stalking prey. This was a disco ball chasing a criminal. The Batman Forever Batmobile represents a turning point in the franchise, the moment when merchandising overtook storytelling, when cool became more important than intimidating. It's not the worst Batmobile ever made. That honor goes to its successor, but it's the one that started the downward spiral, a glowing, finned harbinger of doom for the franchise. Number 6. The 1966 TV series Batmobile. Okay, before anyone starts throwing batarangs, hear me out. The original TV Batmobile is an icon, a legend, a piece of American pop culture history. But we're ranking these as Batmobiles, not as cultural artifacts, and as an actual crime-fighting vehicle. Well, it's basically a modified Lincoln with some bat decorations, but what a Lincoln it was. George Barris took a 1955 Lincoln Futura concept car and transformed it into something magical in just 3 weeks. With a budget of $15,000. That's roughly $150,000 in today's money, which sounds like a lot until you realize modern movie Batmobiles cost millions. Barris was working with bubblegum and prayer, and somehow created something unforgettable. The modifications were pure 1960s camp. That distinctive red pinstriping, hand-painted, the bat nose front end, custom fabricated fiberglass, those rear fins that screamed atomic age. They came with the Futura, but Barris modified them to be even more dramatic. Because in the 60s, more was always more. Inside it was a carnival of crime-fighting gadgets that would make James Bond jealous. The Batphone, naturally, a mobile bat computer that was basically a label maker with delusions of grandeur. The emergency bat turn lever, which deployed parachutes to execute 180-degree turns, atomic batteries, rocket tubes, a chain slicer, anti-theft devices. It was like someone raided a spy movie prop warehouse and bolted everything to a dashboard. Adam West and Burt Ward made this car work through sheer force of personality. They sold every ridiculous gadget, every impossible turn, every moment when the car somehow knew exactly where to go. The show never explained how the Batmobile's navigation worked. It just did, because it was the 60s and logic was for squares. The TV Batmobile's greatest strength was also its weakness. It was never meant to be intimidating. This was a superhero car for a world where criminals wore question marks on their suits and left riddles at crime scenes, where fight scenes had palaisu graphics, where Batman carried shark repellent. In that context, a friendly-looking converted Lincoln made perfect sense. But here's what people forget, this Batmobile was insanely popular. Kids went nuts for it. Barris built several replicas to meet demand for public appearances. It toured the country, showed up at car shows, made celebrity appearances. For many Americans, this was the Batmobile. Everything else was just interpretation. The engine was a Ford V8 that produced about 200 horsepower. Not exactly neck-snapping performance, but it didn't need to be. The top speed was supposedly around 90 miles per hour, though, given the car's aerodynamics, hitting that speed probably felt like riding a kite in a hurricane. The handling was, well, it was a 1950s luxury car pretending to be a superhero vehicle. You do the math. What saves this Batmobile from being ranked lower is its perfect synthesis with its source material. It's exactly the car that Adam West's Batman should drive. Colorful, optimistic, slightly ridiculous, but absolutely committed to the bit. It's not trying to be dark or edgy or realistic, it's trying to be fun. And in that goal, it succeeds completely. Number 5, the 2016 to 2017 Batman v Superman and Justice League Batmobile. Zack Snyder looked at every previous Batmobile and said, what if we made it angrier? This wasn't just a car, it was vehicular rage given form. If the Tumbler was a tank pretending to be a car, this was a weapon that happened to have wheels. The design philosophy was pure military brutalism. Every surface was armored, every angle was aggressive. This Batmobile looked like it was forged in the fires of Batman's darkest nightmares. 20 feet long, 9 feet wide, and weighing in at 7,000 pounds. And this wasn't transportation, this was mobile artillery. The front end was the most distinctive feature. That massive, angular cowcatcher looked like it could punch through a building. And according to the films, it could. The whole front section was designed to be a battering ram. Because Snyder's Batman didn't go around crime. He went through it, literally. The armor plating wasn't just for show. This Batmobile was designed to take serious punishment. Machine gun fire? Shrugged off. Explosions? Minor inconvenience. Superman's heat vision? Okay, that was a problem. But against conventional weapons, this thing was essentially invulnerable. Each armor panel was individually mounted to absorb and deflect impacts. The weapon systems were equally excessive. Twin 50 caliber machine guns mounted in the front, missile launchers, sonic cannons, tear gas dispensers. This Batmobile had more firepower than some small countries. Snyder's Batman wasn't interested in non-lethal crime fighting. This was war, and the Batmobile was equipped accordingly. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite all that armor and weaponry, it was surprisingly fast. The hybrid diesel-electric engine could push it to 205 miles per hour. That's supercar territory. How do you make a 7,000-pound tank go that fast? Very carefully, and with a lot of horsepower. The interior was pure function. No leather luxury here. Every surface was either armor or interface. Multiple screens showing tactical data, weapons controls, navigation systems linked to the Batcave. The seat was basically a racing harness bolted to a metal frame. Comfort was not a consideration. This was a workplace, not a ride. The most controversial aspect, the guns. Batman, using lethal weapons, divided the fanbase like nothing else. But within Snyder's vision of an older, more brutal Batman, it made sense. This wasn't the idealistic crime fighter. This was a warrior who lost too much and crossed too many lines. The Batmobile reflected that fall from grace. What really sells this? Batmobile is how it moves in the films. Despite its size, it's incredibly agile. The chase scenes in Batman v Superman showcased a vehicle that could drift around corners, leap across buildings, and basically ignore physics when needed. It felt heavy, but not slow. Powerful, but not clumsy. The problem? It might be too much. This Batmobile is so aggressive, so militarized, that it stops feeling like Batman's car and starts feeling like something the villain would drive. It's impressive, certainly. Intimidating, absolutely. But it lacks the elegance that defines the best Batmobiles. It's all force, no finesse. Number 4. The 2022 The Batman Batmobile. Robert Pattinson's Batmobile broke every rule, and that's exactly why it works. After decades of increasingly elaborate designs, director Matt Reeves went the opposite direction. This wasn't a military vehicle or a custom supercar, this was a muscle car from hell. The base? A modified 1970s Dodge Charger. But calling it modified is like calling the Hulk slightly upset. This thing was rebuilt from the ground up to be a predator. The exposed rear engine wasn't just for show, it was a thruster system that could launch the car forward with terrifying acceleration. When it fired up, buildings shook. The aesthetic was pure automotive horror, bare metal, exposed mechanicals, armor plating that looked bolted on in a garage rather than designed in a lab. This wasn't a billionaire's toy, this was something a very smart, very angry person built to hurt other people. It looked cobbled together because it was. This Batman was still figuring things out. That engine. My god, that engine. A 700 horsepower V8 that sounded like the devil clearing his throat. When this Batmobile started up, you didn't just hear it, you felt it in your chest. The sound design team spent months getting it right. They wanted something that would make criminals soil themselves just from the sound. The whole car sat low and wide like a big cat ready to pounce. The stance was naturally aggressive. No need for fins or wings or decorative elements. The shape itself was the threat, matte black paint that seemed to absorb light. Minimal badging. This Batmobile didn't announce itself. It didn't need to. But here's the genius part. It felt real. You could imagine someone actually building this in their cave. Every modification had a purpose. The armor protected vital components. The ramming bar up front could take impacts. The rear-mounted engine provided better weight distribution for high-speed pursuits. Form followed function, and function was violence. The The interior was surprisingly sophisticated for such a brutal exterior. High-tech displays integrated into analog gauges, a heads-up display for targeting, advanced navigation systems. This Batman might be young, but he wasn't stupid. The car reflected that dichotomy, raw power guided by intelligence. Performance was exactly what you'd expect from a 700 horsepower muscle car. Terrifying. 0 to 60 in around 3 seconds. Top speed somewhere north of 150 miles per hour. But speed wasn't the point. Intimidation was. This Batmobile didn't need to catch you. It needed to make you surrender. The best scene, that first chase with Penguin. The way the engine fired up, the way the car seemed to gather itself before launching. It was automotive poetry. Dark, violent poetry, but poetry nonetheless. You could feel Batman's rage transmitted through the vehicle. It wasn't just transportation. It was an extension of his fury. What makes this Batmobile special is its honesty. It strips away decades of increasingly ridiculous additions and asks, what would a vigilante actually drive? The answer isn't pretty. It's not sleek or elegant. It's a weapon that happens to have wheels. And in the context of Reeves's grounded noir-influenced Gotham, it's perfect. Number 3, the Tumbler from Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight Trilogy. Christopher Nolan looked at every previous Batmobile and asked the impossible. What if it was real? The answer was the Tumbler. Not a car, not quite a tank, something entirely new. A bridging vehicle that laughed at conventional classification. The origin story was perfect. A mothballed Wayne Enterprises military project originally designed for building bridges because, of course, Bruce Wayne would repurpose military hardware for vigilantism. The Tumbler wasn't built to be the Batmobile, it became the Batmobile. That distinction matters. The design threw out every Batmobile convention. No fins, no bat motifs, no sleek curves. This was pure function incarnate. Every angle served a purpose. Every surface was either armor or articulation. It looked like what it was, a military prototype that someone painted black and unleashed on crime. But the real innovation, the transformation system. When needed, the driver could shift forward into an attack position, lying prone like on a motorcycle. The front wheels would extend forward for better maneuverability. It could jump, actually jump, rooftop to rooftop. The first time audiences saw that, theaters erupted. Physics be damned, it was glorious. The specs were insane but grounded in reality. 500 horsepower engine, 0 to 60 in 5.6 seconds, top speed of 106 miles per hour. Not the fastest Batmobile, but when you weighed 2.5 tons, those numbers are impressive. More importantly, they felt achievable. This wasn't comic book science. This was engineering. The armor was the real star. Explosive reactive armor that could shrug off RPGs. Every surface designed to deflect or absorb impacts. In Batman Begins, we see it take direct hits and keep moving. In The Dark Knight, it sacrifices itself to save Batman, and even destroyed, it's still formidable. This wasn't just protection, it was a philosophy made metal. Inside was purposefully Spartan. No leather luxury. No unnecessary displays. Just essential controls and incredible visibility. The unique periscope system gave the driver perfect awareness despite the armored shell. Every control was military grade, designed to work under stress. This was a tool, not a toy. The sound design deserves special mention. The Tumbler's roar was unlike any previous Batmobile. Deep, mechanical, almost alive. They mixed actual engine sounds with tiger growls and other organic elements. The result was something that sounded both mechanical and predatory. When you heard it coming, you knew something bad was about to happen. What really sold the Tumbler was how it moved. Despite its size and weight, it was incredibly agile. The four-wheel steering system allowed for impossibly tight turns. The jump capability wasn't just for show, it fundamentally changed how Batman could navigate Gotham. Roadblock, jump over it, bridge out, make your own. But perhaps the Tumbler's greatest achievement was making the impossible seem possible. For the first time, audiences could imagine this vehicle actually existing. Warner Bros. Built multiple fully functional versions. They actually performed many of the stunts practically. When the Tumbler smashed through walls or jumped across buildings, that was real. The Tumbler redefined what a Batmobile could be. It proved you could abandon every traditional design element and still create something unmistakably Batman. It was brutal without being cruel, powerful without being ridiculous, real without being boring. It remains the most influential Batmobile design, spawning countless imitators. Number 2, the 1989 Batman Batmobile. Tim Burton's Batmobile didn't just arrive, it announced a new era. After decades of Adam West's friendly cruiser, this was something else entirely. A gothic nightmare on wheels. A moving piece of art that happened to fight crime. This wasn't just a new Batmobile. This was the Batmobile reborn. Anton Furst's design was revolutionary. He took inspiration from Art Deco architecture, 1930s coupes, and quite possibly his darkest nightmares. The result was something that looked like it drove straight out of a German expressionist film. Long, low, and impossibly sleek. Those twin fins weren't just decoration, they were Gothic spires cutting through Gotham's night. The construction was equally impressive. Built on a Chevrolet Impala chassis, every inch was custom. That iconic turbine intake, functional. The afterburner that shot flames, real fire. The armor plating, actual steel. This wasn't movie magic, this was engineering. They built this thing to actually work, and it showed. But what made it special was how it moved through Burton's Gotham. This Batmobile didn't just drive, it prowled. It slithered through those narrow nightmare streets like it belonged there. The way it emerged from shadows, the way it seemed to breathe, this was more than a vehicle. It was a character. The gadgets walked the perfect line between believable and fantastical. Shields that cocooned the car, grappling hooks for impossible turns, machine guns because Burton's Batman had no problem with lethal force. That famous scene where it drops grenades, pure Batman. Efficient, brutal, effective. This wasn't a superhero playing nice. This was urban warfare. The cockpit was a masterpiece of design. 2 seats because Batman might need a passenger. Surrounded by analog switches and monitors that felt both futuristic and timeless. The steering wheel looked like it belonged in a fighter jet. Every surface suggested function, even if we never saw it used. This was a workspace that happened to move. Performance-wise, it was genuinely impressive. The jet turbine could theoretically push it to 300 miles per hour, though they never went that fast on film. The actual driving versions topped out around 150 miles per hour, which was plenty for those narrow Gotham streets. But speed wasn't the point. Presence was. And what presence it had. That silhouette became instantly iconic. You could show it in shadow and everyone knew exactly what it was. The proportions were perfect. Long hood tapering to that turbine mouth. Canopy swept back like a fighter jet. Those fins rising like bat wings. It was sculpture that happened to have an engine. The sound design was equally thoughtful. The turbine whine was actually a recording of a jet engine, pitched down and mixed with traditional engine sounds. When the afterburner kicked in, theaters rumbled. This wasn't just loud, it was orchestrated. Every sound designed to reinforce that this was Batman's car. What really sets this Batmobile apart is its influence. Every subsequent Batmobile owes something to this design. The integration of bat motifs without being literal. The balance of sleek and aggressive. The idea that the Batmobile should be beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Burton and Furst created the template. But perhaps its greatest achievement was making the Batmobile feel special again. After years of camp, this brought gravity back to Batman's world. When Michael Keaton's Batman climbed into this machine, you believed he could take on crime. It wasn't just transportation, it was transformation. Man became myth the moment that turbine fired up. Number 1, the 1992 Batman Returns Batmobile. Take everything perfect about the 1989 Batmobile. Now refine it, polish every edge, perfect every curve, add subtle improvements that make a masterpiece even better. That's the Batman Returns Batmobile. The ultimate expression of what a Batmobile should be. At first glance, it looks identical to its predecessor. Look closer, the lines are cleaner, the finish is deeper, the proportions are slightly adjusted for better visual balance. This wasn't a redesign, it was evolution. Like a pianist who's played the same piece 1,000 times and finally achieved perfection. The technical improvements were subtle but significant. Better handling thanks to suspension refinements, improved visibility through a slightly modified canopy, more reliable turbine system that could run longer without overheating. The flame effects were enhanced for more dramatic afterburner displays. Every system that worked well was made better. Everything problematic was fixed, but the real improvements were in how it was filmed. Burton and his team had learned from the first film. They knew exactly how to showcase this machine, the way it glided through those snow-covered streets, the way it seemed to dance during chase scenes. This wasn't just better engineering, it was better choreography. The gadgets were more integrated this time. The disc launcher that took out the Red Triangle gang, seamless. The way it navigated through sewers and tight spaces, effortless. This Batmobile felt lived in. Batman had been using it for years, and it showed in how naturally he operated every system. The symbolic weight was heavier too. In Batman Returns, the Batmobile wasn't just Batman's car. It was his refuge. The scene where it returns to the Batcave on autopilot while Bruce bleeds in the seat, that's trust. That's partnership. This machine wasn't just serving Batman, it was saving him. Performance remained stellar. Same basic specs as the '89 version, but everything ran smoother. The stunt drivers reported it handled better. The effects team said it was more reliable. When you're already near perfection, these incremental improvements matter. This wasn't fixing problems, this was polishing excellence. The aesthetic reached its peak here. That deep, lustrous black that seemed to absorb light, the way snow accumulated on those curves. The contrast between its sleek beauty and Gotham's decay. This Batmobile wasn't just in the movie, it was part of the movie's visual language. Every frame with it was composed like a painting. What clinches the top spot is completeness. This Batmobile had no weaknesses. Design, flawless. Performance, exceptional. Integration with the film, perfect. Cultural impact, immeasurable. It balanced every element that makes a great Batmobile. Intimidating but beautiful. Functional but fantastical. Grounded but larger than life. This is the Batmobile others are measured against. When people close their eyes and picture Batman's car, this is what they see. Those swept back fins, that turbine intake, the impossible grace of something so powerful. It's not just the best Batmobile, it's one of the greatest movie vehicles ever created. The Batman Returns Batmobile represents the apex of Batmobile design. It took the revolutionary and made it definitive. 30 years later, nothing has surpassed it. Others have gone bigger, faster, more militaristic, more realistic, but none have achieved this perfect synthesis of form and function. This isn't just Batman's car. This is the Batmobile, the definitive article, the one against which all others are judged and found wanting. And there you have it. Every live-action Batmobile ranked from worst to best. From neon nightmares to gothic masterpieces, from friendly cruisers to engines of war. Each one reflects its era's vision of Batman. Each one tells us something about how we see our heroes. Which is your favorite? Did we rank them wrong? Are you furious we put the 66 version at number 6? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this automotive journey through Gotham's history, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next ranking video. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.